Hey guys, and welcome to the very first episode of Pho Reviews. This is going to be a regular segment each week where I go out and review a random restaurant here in Brisbane in search of that perfect bowl of pho. Originally, when I first picked up a camera 2 years ago, I had an idea where I was going to go review every single pho there is in Australia. But I think back then I was a little bit too ambitious because 2 years on, I've yet to do my first review. So we're gonna just keep things humble, and I'm gonna try and get through Brisbane first. And hopefully by the time this whole COVID thing blows over, I'll be ready to hit the airport and slowly make my way around Australia. For those joining us for the very first time, my name is Leighton. I'm a professional chef out of Brisbane. I'm also a vlogger, and I specialize in making pho. So by day, I'm prepping pho, and by night, I'm serving pho to real customers. And any time in between, I like to go out and eat other people's pho. And I think here in Brisbane, there is no one more qualified than I am, because unlike a foodie, I live and breathe pho. I work in the industry, I'm qualified, so I'm going to be able to give you guys a really thorough breakdown of a bowl and give you guys my opinion of it, because at the end of the day, a food review at its most basic level is just someone's opinion of a dish. Welcome.
Oh, hello.
Excuse the mess.
Oh my god, yeah.
This is the first time Jason's in my car. It looks like an absolute bomb, but I don't go on hot dates, so I don't have to clean my car often.
What are we doing, karaoke? Seems like that
Oh, yeah. Cut. Oh.
James Corden epic lens.
Yeah. It can fit us both. Alright, let's go for it. How do we get out of here?
Go right.
Oh, lost. So today I'm with fellow YouTuber Jason Morris. He's also my trainer.
Nice. Oh, and that's how you put the weights down like a pro.
And it's funny because usually a client PT relationship ends when that session's over, but Jason finds himself as my eating buddy today as well.
Nice. I'm always up for food.
And because this is my very first review, he's going to come along and offer a bit of moral support, because no one wants to sit alone and eat and talk to a camera. I was just telling my audience that it's been a really long struggle to get to this stage that we're at now. I picked up my first camera 2 years ago, and I shot everything and anything and everyone else for like a year and a half, and it's only in the last few months that I had the courage to face the camera and talk. And it's a really long struggle, and everyone's journey with a camera is completely different. The quick story of how we met: I contacted Jason because I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and that was a really long time ago. I think it was November the year before. I saw one of his DJI videos, and I said, hang on, this is Brisbane. So that's how I reached out to him, and like I said, he wasn't a snob. He replied, and we met up for a coffee, and
here you are.
And here we are. Here we are in Callan Vale.
The Vale.
We actually had a setback 2 weeks ago. We were supposed to do this a fortnight ago. Lucky this isn't a real review. We just had one really big problem. The table's too small. So when the table's too small, to solve that, I went out and got a new lens, and this is the Sony 12-24 f4 we're shooting on. So it doesn't matter whether we rock up and they give us like a little kids table, we're still going to be able to fit in that shot.
Even if we're this close. I'm literally a finger point away.
Yep.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's so wide.
So being the first review, I just wanted to keep it really simple, although I've got a really complex scoring system. Jason can show the camera that. I've even got a graph. That's how crazy it is because I want to describe how basically the profile of a pho broth, and a good example and a bad example.
Ooh, unacceptable, acceptable broth,
and a complex. Yeah, so very, very detailed. We're going to break it down. And I think Jason's given me a suggestion for this segment here. What did you call it? Pho Undone?
Pho Undone, yeah. Just like Gerald Undone.
Just like Gerald, yeah.
That has to be the title now.
That's it. All right, we'll run with that until someone tells us otherwise. Yeah, so very simple video today we're going to do. It's more like two guys eating on a camera, and then I'm going to talk about my scoring criteria later, because I don't want this first one to be too complicated. And you know, when you go out and eat with friends and family, you're excited. You're not nervous like I am, you know, a nervous wreck thinking, oh, what am I going to say on camera? I'm going to try this place out. Biet, which is in Vale Central. Yeah, bit of public vlogging. We're on our way to this place here.
How do you say it?
Biet. Biet, yeah, Vietnamese lessons.
Okay.
We're at Vale Central. All right, let's go in. Pho as well?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
What do you recommend?
I usually go the special. That's got like all the weird stuff in it.
Special.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a go.
Yeah. He's Asian too, so we're gonna get him on the mystery meats. And
Why not? Here we go.
so here they've got two sizes. They got a regular or a jumbo. I'm just gonna go regular.
Do you reckon they're big?
Yeah, they're usually big.
I'll go regular.
Yeah. All right, regular and rice bag rolls.
Done.
Done.
You order my treat?
Yeah, no worries. Oh, that's all right. All good. See, guys. I've got a criteria there. See? I've got a score there, whether they accept cash or not. See, that's why I put it there. Yeah. All right. So they're going to Pho duck Biet $13.50, and the large size is $15.50. So no one's serving. Looks like just the owner's serving. Looks like we brought the crowd in with us. It was dead before we got here, so we're good luck. Hai cái phở đặc biệt. So we've got our first score, which is do they accept cash or card? If they accept a card, it's 1 point. Obviously it's not, so it's a 0.
Good start.
Yep. Yeah, so a couple of criteria is just how the broth looks. I call it the clarity test. And then the broth, that's probably the biggest scoring criteria for me. I've just kept it out of 5. I didn't want to go like out of 10 or 20, just to keep things simple. And then eventually I'm going to do a spreadsheet of where I go, and it's just going to have just a collection of every single place and their scores. A couple other things, just the garnish, noodles, how much meat's in it, the ratio of noodles to meat, is it hot? And just in perfect timing too. So the freshness of this side plate here, that's perfect. Yeah. So that gets a 1. Fresh chili, that looks freshly cut. Because some places they give you like
Powder or something?
no, they give you some cut from like yesterday that's been sitting here in in like a container like that. So it's, yeah, so this one looks like it's just been freshly cut, because you can tell. Oh.
It's a bit juicy.
I've got a really unique scoring criteria here called MSG aftertaste. Okay, this is the only one where you can score a negative, because last week when Will crossed the road at First Saigon here in in Sunnybank Hills, the broth, it's not too bad as well. Half an hour after I ate that bowl there, I said it was nice, but I think I was just really hungry. when I got home, I blacked out basically for like an hour because there was just so much MSG in it. So this criteria here, MSG, if it's good, it doesn't score any points, but if it's bad, you're gonna get a negative. So, and the rest of the criteria, it's just the value, as in how much it costs versus how much meat and noodles you get, and then just a bit of service, and it's a score out of 20. So I'm gonna score this, and we're gonna discuss it later on. A lot of restaurant owners, they actually go to other restaurants and sort of, I call it spying. Even though they're sitting down having a meal, a really good tell is just the way they look at the store. So say for example, we're having a meal where, come on,
Thank you.
I'm busy talking to Jason. I'm not busy just like, you know, like looking like, there's a way that you can tell straight away whether they're not here to just admire the walls and the paintings. It's a really suspicious look. And I've had a few other restaurant owners come into my store, and you can tell they're just staring at you the whole time. And when they walk past the kitchen, it's like they're looking what gear you're running, and it's like,
Well, it is a nice looking kitchen.
oh, it is, but there's a difference between just, oh yeah, that's pretty flash, and oh yeah, I see what oven they're using.
Wait, do they give bonus points for what the store looks like too?
No, I haven't gone that far. I'm not superficial yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we might get there. I've got this other criteria called X factor. The X factor, it's more for the broth. If there's something special about it, they'll get an extra point, but not yet. I might put one for the decor. Maybe just, this is a very good standard let's call it profile. You know how Sony has picture profiles? This is a very standard profile for a Vietnamese restaurant. This lady's doing a really good job on her own. If it was me, I'd be flustered already. Especially at lunch, because everyone just wants to get in order and get out.
Yeah. That's it. How long from start to finish should the pho take to make?
Oh, 30 seconds. You're waiting for the broth to boil. That's the bit that takes the longest.
Yep.
You hear that sound in the background? That is the wok or the stockpot boiler, because they run a really big gas. They call it like a duck bill or a chimney burner, and that is the. Oh, there we go. Oh, come on, go. Yep. Ooh, here we go.
What do you got?
Ooh. Are we still recording? Yes, we are. No. I think because I was shooting on the dash. Yeah. Were we in frame the whole time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard not to be.
All right, let's dig in.
What do you want?
I just want a fork and a spoon. I don't use chopsticks.
What kind of Asian are you?
I don't know. Okay.
Supposed to add this?
Yeah. So how you do this? People like to add bean sprouts. This guy here into there. That's the only thing that's crunchy in the entire bowl, so it gives a bit of contrast. And then people like to add a few, bits of Thai basil. And then a lot of people squeeze a bit of lemon. It's similar how you have a, fish. Yeah, it just makes it a bit more tartier. And then obviously if you got your fresh chili, if you want it a bit of kick.
No chili for me. No chili, man.
All right, so the garnish situation, I've got a criteria here, and this is, it's a score out of 1, but I'm gonna give it a 0, because this is really, really basic garnish, which is just shreds of just onion on top. It doesn't look like they put any effort into it, and yeah, it doesn't look like there's coriander where there's supposed to be, and another coriander called ngò gai or sawtooth coriander. Oh, let's try it. Okay. The broth looks really clear, which only means one thing. It's full MSG. That is why the clarity test is right at the top of my list, because you can tell by just looking at it how much bones was used to cook it. Look, this doesn't look too bad, but we're gonna find out soon with this MSG test.
It's like I'm driving home.
So Jason, since you're a novice, when you taste it, you see this section here where I say it's unacceptable. It's the graph just shoots straight up.
Yep.
It just shoots straight up to sweet.
Yep.
When really you want something that's got a longer finish. That's why over here, the further it goes, the more of a long finish. Similar like how you drink wine, you've got a long finish at the end, but this one it's like one-way traffic. It just skyrockets straight up. Yeah.
What's this thing?
That is tripe.
All right.
Yeah.
Never had it before.
Thanks for coming along. I know Jason's doing a challenge at the moment. A lot of gyms are doing like an 8-week challenge. Even my gym, F45, is doing an 8-week challenge. I think I'm the only person in the whole gym not doing it. It is definitely a hot soup.
Yep.
Oh, come here. I can't even slurp it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is too hot to slurp, yeah. You're doing an awesome job at slurping. Alright, we're going to pop the mic over to Jason. He's going to give us his best slurp, because this is a regular segment I want to do, just getting just good sound of a person eating a soup. Here we go. Sounds good.
Tastes good. In my opinion. I could drink that forever.
You know what? Next thing, Jason's going to have a food channel. We're going to do a swap. I'm going to do a camera channel and Jason's just going to... It is. When you're living the fur life, it doesn't matter how hot Brisbane is, we're going to still have our soup.
Yep. Yep.
And it's funny because I get customers who come in on like the really, really hot days. Like there was a day when it was like 38 degrees and people were still having fur, and I can see them just wiping their foreheads, eating. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Wow, you're kidding. Is it really raining? Okay, so we just got out and it is just pissing down rain. We don't have an umbrella. I don't want to get my camera wet, even though this is weatherproof.
Yeah, it is weather sealed, but
Not for this.
I wouldn't trust it.
Oh, come on, go. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That is service. I forgot my pen in there. I forgot my red pen in there doing a review, and the ladies come out and given it to me. That's an extra point for service there.
Maybe she knows she's being filmed.
Just got back to the store. I'm going to grab myself a coffee and then we're going to run through the results. Going through the results, Me Tho Vietnamese scored a total of 10 out of 20 for the pho that I had today. And taking it right from the very top, we've got the clarity test. And I've spoken at length about this in my 24-hour bone broth video, because this is a good indicator of how much bones was used in the soup, as well as how long the bones were simmered for. And out of a possible score of 2, this pho here scored 1. It certainly wasn't the most transparent I've ever seen, but also not the deepest and richest as well. Onto the broth. This is the highest scoring criteria, because to me the broth is the all-important one. And out of a possible 5, this place scored 2. And the reason for that is, if we refer to this homemade chart that I've made up, this is what I called a broth profile. And if I could draw a line to describe how the taste of this broth is, it would be an arrow going straight up, because basically when I tasted it, all I could taste is sweetness, and that is it. Towards this side is the depth of the broth, or the long finish. If you're referring to, say, drinking a wine, there was no depth to this broth that I tasted today. It was all in this area here, which I've highlighted pink. And excuse the Excel graph, because I don't have any fancy motion graphics at the moment, but I will work on it. So yeah, the broth wasn't that impressive, but it wasn't the worst either. So I've scored it at 2. Third criteria is X factor. And this is a really important one, because sometimes when I go for a pho, there's a twist to it that I can't quite put my finger on. And this is what makes the broth unique. And the X factor here, there was none, so it scores a 0. The garnish, I spoke from the very start, it gets a 0 out of 1, because it just looked like they've cut a few onions and put it on, as well as some shallots, and that is it. Usually you see coriander, which is ngao, as well as sawtooth coriander, ngogai, and basically those 4 things make up a good garnish like this store here. So it's gotten a 0 out of 1. Moving on to noodles, it scored 1 out of 1. Noodles were fine. The meat, this is where I talk about just how much meat they give you. They scored 1 out of 2. It wasn't the tightest portion, but also not the most generous. But then again, it was a regular size at 1350, which wasn't too bad. And then we move on to the noodle to meat ratio. They scored 1 out of 1. It wasn't too bad. They didn't give us 90% noodles and 10% meat, so it was pretty good. Moving on to how hot the soup was. It was definitely very hot. I couldn't slurp it straight away. 1 out of 1. The freshness of the side plate, which is the Thai basil, bean sprouts, lemon, chili, they scored 1 out of 1. You guys saw that as soon as it came out. And this is the most controversial part here, the MSG, because Vietnamese soups are notorious for MSG. And I told you 2 weeks ago when I went and did my first review at Pho Saigon across the road, after an hour of eating it, I was out cold. So here you can't actually score points, but if I feel like I've got an MSG coma after, this is where I take points away. Here, after I finished my meal, went over to Jason's, had a look at his new setup. I got back to the store here and I'm absolutely fine. So here it scores 0 out of 0, which is actually good. Value, I'd say 1 out of 2. It's pretty good value at $13.50. It's not the most expensive, like my store. Service, 1 out of 1. The lady who runs it looks like she was handling lunch service by herself. She was taking orders, bringing out food, making drinks, clearing tables, cleaning tables, and she even brought out my red pen because I forgot it in there. So this is over and above service, so 1 out of 1. The last criteria is whether they accept card or cash, and before we knew it, they already scored 0 out of 1 because it's a cash only business. So tallying everything up, it is 10 out of 20. That's how I scored it. And you guys can find this scoring system on my website at phoq.com.au. I'm gonna have a long running Excel sheet. And this scoring criteria here, I actually borrowed from YouTuber Doug Demura. He does car reviews. And at the end of the day, sometimes the best things are the ones that are simple. And Doug Demura, he scores his cars in a simple Excel sheet, which he puts up online, and I'm going to do the same too. With this broth profile, I will eventually get to a better animation of how I would describe the broth there. And that is it for today. Thanks guys for watching my very first pho review. Please hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys shortly. And when I say shortly, Jason Morris, he's already teed me up for next week's pho review. So we're gonna hit this hard every single week.